5:45, we have a quorum, we'll go ahead and call the workshop session to order. Donna?
Mayor and Council, we have two presentations for you tonight. A very brief presentation by Ms. Carol Bassinger related to the water tower logo. We're about to paint the tower on 407, and we just wanted to share with you what we're considering in relation to the logo.
Here I am. We'll be real quick. Mayor and Council, we have to inspect our tanks each year, and we did find some, not only some structural, but some paint damage on the FM 407 elevated storage tank. It's the corner of Moxon and 407, about a block's right by the fire station, and we'll have to repaint that as well. And when we do, that's a good time to redo the logo. It still has the old logo on it. So what we wanted to do is just show you basically what we have in mind. And we're going to do the new logo design, and we're going to do the maximum visibility from I-35, which is the way that will be orientated. And this is just gives you some of the structural information on the tank and sort of how it's going to look. And that little circle in the corner kind of gives you the visibility view. Basically, there's going to be 3 logos on this tank as opposed to we normally do 2, and that's going to give better visibility all around. Plus, James gave us approval to kind of change it up a little bit so we can get more of the logo on there and make it bigger for you. So, but one of them will basically be due west, and the other 2 will be visible from north and south on 35. And the top part will just have the Lewisville, and then we'll have the bird. It's a little bit of a variation, but I think it's going to be the maximum visibility for you there. And there's a map, there's some extras if you need those so that you won't have to keep thumbing back through there. But what this does is that based on, you can see where the tank location is there, and each one of these numbers correlates to a picture of what you will see when you're driving from various locations. And you can see in number 1 on your sheet shows you what you will see when you're coming from, I believe that's on Moccasin there by the tank. And then 2 and 3, and then 4 is a good visibility there from different versions of either on 35 or on 407. 5 is kind of the one that you're going to get the best version of, and that is about 300 feet from the base of the tank up there to what you'll see. And I believe that location is on 407 or right under the tank. If you're approaching the tank, you're going to see that. That's what you'll see. 6 and 7 are actually visible from 35. Now you'll see it says it's 3,000 feet away. If I really showed you what it looked like, you wouldn't be able to see it very well, but that's blown up, and that's going to be basically the orientation that you'll see. I believe 7 would be northbound, coming southbound on 35, and then 6 I believe would be going northbound. So you're going to see that. And one thing the engineer did say is that once we actually, this was their engineered version of that, but once they actually kind of get a stencil and get ready for that, they can crank that a few degrees either way to give the maximum visibility from 35. That is our goal there, is to make sure that we portray the tank as best we can from the vantage point of most of the vehicles. One other thing that we were asked to look at was what would it look like if we put something on the top of the tank. And we can do just about anything you want to do, but basically, just to start, we thought we would show you that's what you would see from the very top of the tank. And the reason the Lewisville is turned different directions, and that will be cranked to where it's pretty much in the flight path coming and going, and you'll see the Lewisville will be right side up either direction, and that will be in purple as well. And you can change the font on that, or TJ said, what about putting the bird right in the middle of that? We could do that. We can do whatever you have the appetite for. So
It'd be fun to give all those people a bird.
Okay.
And I know that's really quick, and I've got a little cutout here that kind of give you the 3D version of it, if you would. And I know TJ has seen that already, but this is just a very cheap cut paper doll, if you would. But you'll see there's 3 logos, and then that's what the top you'd see. And we can actually put the fancy font or whatever that you want on there. This is actually to scale. 1 inch is 10 feet, so that's pretty much what you're going to see, just a great big version of it. The project's going to take 90 days, and it's ready to bid. Matter of fact, Todd may have it out already. We're going to try to start construction no later than November the 1st.
You got it out to bid before we even approve it?
No, not the logo.
Oh, I'm
Just
sorry.
the project. No, that's the
Okay.
reason we wanted to show you this.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no, this is the last thing that goes on there. So,
Okay.
but with that, we said that our intent is to make the maximum visibility from 35 and from the air traffic on the top. And with that, if you have comments or approval, disapproval, or what you'd like to see on this.
You ever give any thoughts about putting a fighting farmer on there, like the other one on 35?
No,
It's probably gonna be the only high school we ever have.
never know what's gonna happen tomorrow.
That's your call.
There's gonna be another high school here. Maybe.
I kind of lean the other way. I know that the fighting farmers have a proud history, and I think that we do a lot to represent and to take into consideration that history. But the way I feel about it is, this is gonna be one of the first things representing Lewisville as cars and people approach Lewisville from the north. And I'm thinking that I would like to see more something that kind of is relevant to the future, that kind of invigorates thinking that, you know, of things to come, not so much set in the past. We are just south of two great universities, and I would like to see something possibly that would entice those young, very knowledgeable minds that might want them to come to Lewisville and to do business or to continue their studies in Lewisville. And hopefully we will, along that same path, attract the businesses that they would come here to study under or further their professional life. And I think if we put something appropriate on that water tower, that it would go a long way in toward indicating to people our economic development intentions, the type of businesses that we want here, the type of urban community that we're trying to establish in Old Town. And so for those reasons and others, I'll give somebody else a chance to speak.
What type of,
Well, I don't have, I thought this through from the standpoint of, I would prefer that the message is going forward, not backwards, but not so much relevant to the past. Fighting farmers, to me, indicates or may represent small town, maybe, which we are, but I would like the thinking to be different than that. I would like it to be forward thinking. I'd like it to be, to invigorate college students that we have the type of businesses here that are doing things globally, and it would be in their best interest to be here for a time period, to live here, to work or continue their schooling.
I'm with you and then some. It certainly helps the city to have good schools and a good impression that schools can make on attracting businesses and people to move here. However, from the city point of view, I'm not here to sell a high school. There's no return on selling a high school.
I don't agree with you at all on that. I don't know where that was coming from, but.
ask a realtor and they'll tell you that's the number one reason people move to a city.
Yeah, but go ahead.
I just got through saying, it helps the city to have good ratings on its schools. It brings you people moving here, it brings you business moving here. But as a city, if that's all I have to market, or if that's a major element I have to market, I don't have much to sell. I just have a high school. That's it, a high school.
I wouldn't mean it as a high school.
I think we have way more to provide and way more to market. And we've worked so hard so far, for example, through 2025, and the plans are to continue to work towards marketing all the things the city has to offer and what the city is at large, which is not just a high school. So, and we've talked about the benefits of creating a brand and an image for ourselves. And if our brand and image is just a high school, then that's all we have. If our brand and image is the total of our city, that's what we should be marketing. That's what we should be selling. So I would much rather see the city's logo, which is the identifier that lets people, after usually more than one impression, an impression being seeing it, to begin to connect all of the things that they've heard collectively, all of the different elements and opportunities the city has to offer with that city. At that point, I have to ask myself, am I marketing the city as a whole city, or am I marketing a high school? Am I marketing a football team? And I'd rather market the whole city.
What about the softball team?
What about the softball team?
It's on the water tower also.
It doesn't say the Fighting Farmer football team, the
Not yet.
championship does.
And I
What I was
I
saying,
didn't say football, I said high school.
well, you just said a football team.
Well, all right.
That's what you said.
And
And to me,
A
it's
high
not
school.
doing a high school. To me, it's doing a community. It's doing a pride. It's doing a community-based deal that we stand together as a community. It draws us as a community together. Yes, we do all those other things, but what all those things can you put on a water tower that's going to encompass all those things? A purple bird doesn't encompass all the stuff you were talking about in any
no,
way,
but
shape,
the
or form.
purple bird, if you start to build your brand, it begins to be the recognition factor for it. If you put Farmer John up there, the recognition you've created is for one high school.
I disagree. I think it shows a community.
It may show a community, but it shows a community wrapped around one high school.
Don't we
It
have a water
doesn't
tower,
show
Farmer John?
a community and all of the things it has to offer.
Don't we have one?
Better to,
But we have one.
if you want to make
I'm good
Farmer
with
John the city's logo, then make Farmer John the city's logo and tie your brand to it. But he's not the city's logo. If you're going to market your city, create your brand, tie it to your logo, and market that. The high school is part of the package, but it's not the package.
I agree with that 100%.
Then why would I put Farmer John up there as opposed to putting something that represents the whole city?
Because I think people will much more identify with a fighting farmer than they will a purple bird.
It's
That's
all in
what
one.
a community is and how they stand by it. You look at a lot of other cities in Texas, it's pretty much a Texas thing, have their school up there because it gets more publicity than anything else. What else do we have gets as much publicity as our high school?
Our lake.
It didn't get, only if they drown. What else, do you hear anything about the lake?
You don't get the turnout at a lake that we get the turnout because people haven't heard of it.
No, what publicity do we get on the lake other than somebody drowning? When's the last time you saw us on TV on the lake other than something drowning, somebody
We get
drowning?
publicity in magazines, we get publicity in
If we pay to
business
put it in
marketing.
there, if
We
we
get-
pay to put it in there.
we don't have to necessarily, Texas Highways has done something on, like, did we pay to put it in there? No, we didn't pay to put it in there. They put it in there.
I haven't
I'm
seen
just
it.
saying,
I haven't seen
if all
any
you.
news channels come here and do a story on the lake except unless somebody drowned. Or
Well,
are they so low you can't
Then
get
we're
boated?
not doing a good job at marketing an asset.
That's fine too. I agree with that. I've been saying that for
So
10 years.
I'm gonna put my emphasis on marketing the high school instead of marketing the other
I don't
assets that I
think you're
have.
marketing a high school, you're marketing
I
a
mean-
community item.
I'm marketing a community, I get that, but you know what, that you say, a lot of cities put their high school logo on their water towers. Yeah, cities of what size and with what else to offer. Most of the places I go and see a high school logo on a water tower, it is Ponder or smaller. It is smaller.
Ponder just started football. And didn't have a band. I mean,
No,
so what do you do?
it's Salina or smaller.
Salina, of course, we go to Frisco. Oh, wait a second, they got 9 high schools now, but they still have, well, they have the raccoons on it now. That's it.
I think this is an opportunity to either create a brand or further the brand in the direction that we are trying to go, or at least I think we're trying
Well,
to
in
go.
this particular, we're talking about 407 and Moccasin.
Yeah.
I think TJ said already, we have a tower with a farming farmer on it already,
I
right?
wouldn't put it out on this one.
Is
This
that-
area right there, if it's not around it, real close to it, those kids go to school in Marcus anyway.
Yep.
So I wouldn't have any part of that. That's not that community. And because the school is not the city. I agree with that part. But it is a community thing that
Well, what I like is we've got lots of water towers. If we're only one water tower, we might be having a little different conversation,
Yeah.
but I think this being the north entrance right there, I think it's a great way to get this logo. Now, if and when we start talking about the Farmer John water tower, that's gonna have, I'm gonna have a little different conversation there, because I think that has a history that we should respect, and it's not the first or last impression. It is a unique identifier. And you got little towns like Keller, well, let's call it a little town, but most towns have kept, if they can, they kept their original water tower, and it's part of either a central city park or it's some other type of asset that they've kept because it reminds them of their past, even though they've moved forward beyond that.
look
So
at the jail now.
yeah, I mean, well, heck, my hometown, we kept the Yuma prison. You ever watch 910 to Yuma?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my hometown. So we keep a prison. I mean, that's part of the deal. But I'm good with the logo we have here. The only thing I might ask is, I wouldn't mind seeing if we couldn't get that green stripe across the bottom of the bowl. Not a big one, but just the collar.
And the other thing, Carol, that I asked you earlier
Just
is-
because it's part of the same logo. If we were gonna do the branding, all of our logoing has that purple martin with the chartreuse or green stripe on it.
Underneath that.
I was just thinking,
At the very base, the.
yeah, just the very base there.
I mean, like the one that's underneath the,
Yeah, the deep roots, broad wings. I don't want the text.
Talking right there, Carol?
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Right
Yeah,
there.
just right along there, along that collar. If that's a doable.
It is, because that part still is metal. It's a little more difficult on the concrete, the actual,
That's my take. I love the 3. I think it gives us better visibility in the 2. I went and drove on it this past weekend and tried to see it from different ways, and the 2 is just, there's big white spots.
yeah.
So,
Color pops.
yeah, it does.
I go back to what I asked you when I first walked in. I asked you about putting the logo on the top so that it was visible aerially. And then I had to leave, so I didn't get back with what's the cost.
He hadn't given us a cost yet, but it won't be that, the Louisville.
Because they're already doing all this stuff, so.
Yeah, well, if you're just talking about doing the 2 Louisvilles like what we've got, that can be included in the price that we've already got.
Oh,
So
I'd like to see the logo on the top,
The actual
so they can
bird?
see it from the air. It's, the thing is, to me, is the exposure to, you want to attract visitors if you can.
Which one would you want
Can
to
you hold
have?
the top
Do
back
what?
up?
Would you have it, one of them, they have Louisville both
I know, we gotta
ways.
face them both
Put it
ways, because the
upside
air
down on
traffic
one of
goes
them.
both
Pick
ways.
one.
And, either discover which air traffic is more common and put it facing that way, or if it's equal, I think it is.
I assume it'd be the south, but I don't know. Because that's where the wind, everybody in the wind
Yeah.
most of the time.
Or you put one above each Louisville,
And
I
it will
don't
be
know.
in purple now,
Or you
the
split
slide we had was not, but this will be, you're talking about putting
yeah,
a.
you can just go.
Either the center or above each
Okay,
Louisville.
we can do that.
Putting what?
The
What's he
bird,
talking about?
the-
The bird.
A version of the bird.
Put it in the
This is
center.
creating the same
Ah,
thing you've
ah.
got here.
Remember, you're at about 5,000 feet here on coming in or taking off at this point.
Yeah.
So really, the top was getting there. The one down to the south, we had talked about doing different things because you're hitting.
Well, yeah.
Move down to my
you're
house,
hitting
it's not
about-
quite as
Yeah,
high.
you're hitting about 3,000 feet, so.
It's a much larger tank as well.
Yeah,
This is a
and
$2
so you
million
have some
tank,
more
that's a
room
2.5.
up there, so, yeah, we can do that. I'm afraid if you start squeezing them down on one side,
Yep.
it's so small,
Yeah.
But
it
if
may be
you
visible.
put it in the center,
Just one?
Yeah, just one in the center.
What do we have, what kind of
Now,
roof vents and mounts do we have on top? Is it gonna distort it?
No,
Okay.
because this is fairly flat on the top. Now, if you put just one bird, you'll either see it upside down coming one direction or right side up the other. If you'll notice this one, no matter which direction you're coming from, you're gonna see it right side up. So
Yeah.
one bird, you just see it one dimensional, so to speak.
I think two's gonna start looking.
Okay. We'll work on it.
Okay.
Rotate.
But I don't
Yeah,
think
wait a
that
minute.
between the.
That's where he's-
sand around there, that's not.
Where he's at, we put a big metal sheet up there that spins.
So council, I hear that the overall design you like. If we can add a bird to the top, that's what you'd like to see us do.
I would reckon
I'd like to see that color piece, if
Yes,
that's okay.
that's
I reckon
very-
I'd still like to look at the fighting farm.
On this tank?
I just think it's like I said, a north end to the lake, lets people know. I guarantee people recognize that symbol. Rudy's talking about it, everybody.
I have
People would
a dentist
recognize.
in California that said that.
Oh, yeah,
Home
I
of the
know where
fighting
y'all are.
farmers. What?
And it's not about a high school, it's about a community they recognize. Oh, yeah, you are a real prideful community down there.
We would probably need that within the next
Oh, you got,
45 days.
you've got a consensus the other way, I just said for the record. I'm
Said
saying.
Leroy was going another direction.
Pardon me?
You were looking at that deal about something else on there. Were you talking about
I think he was
existing
talking-
logo? That was okay with you, or?
Actually, I hadn't really thought about what would actually be on there.
Just a
What I
question.
was talking about was the branding.
Right.
I thought where we had talked about where we're headed, that brand, we could communicate that brand better with something like we're talking about than we can with the Fighting Farmers.
Oh, I agree, particularly in this case.
Okay, that's where I was coming from.
So Mayor, we have two more water tanks we're gonna be bringing back to you, one on 3040 and one on 35. And so we'll bring back a fighting farmer
If they don't
concept
want the
next.
fighting farmer, they can sit out there and say they don't want it, I'm gonna say I want it.
I'd love to see it on the 35.
Okay, we'll,
Me too.
we'll bring options for you next time.
But what about the other two water tanks?
Uh,
How many are there
What's
total?
budgeted right now is 407 and 3040 and then 935.
And then you got the one on, by Hedrick Middle
Yes.
School down
We've
there,
got
right?
two more.
Yes.
And the one on Garden Ridge? Or-
And
The
those
one
are,
on Bel Air.
Austin Ridge.
what's,
And one on Austin
what's
Ranch.
the?
There's three more water
repainting?
towers?
They're a long way, Austin
Five.
Ranch is new, and it has the new logo, but then, the Bel Air tank it's several years away.
Does Castle Hills have the bird?
No.
No, it has the old logo.
It has the old
Right.
Yeah.
It would just be in the process.
Yeah, as they come up for repainting, we'll bring back.
That's
bring
fine,
back
the only reason I was
council.
saying this is because it's visible on 35, just people go through it.
We'll certainly bring back those options.
I've got to ask now, what about the water tower at northbound Service Road and College? Is that going to be
Off
moved,
I-35?
changed? Where are we at on that now?
Yes, that will have to be moved slightly.
Okay.
And so we'll be coming back to you. There's another issue we need to discuss with the council on that particular movement. And so we'll be bringing that back in the next,
Yeah. Several years ago, y'all okayed to go to a composite tank, the same style of tank that's on 407, concrete base, larger bowl. And so that tank will go to replace the old.
So what's there is not going to stay there.
it'll have to be
It's gotta-
slightly, it'll have to be moved.
It'll have to be moved, but it's a different, it's not gonna be a leg tank, it's what we call a composite tank.
Okay.
Concrete cylinder with a top bowl.
And it'll be about 48 feet tall.
It's gonna be huge.
Okay.
And pitchfork we're gonna put on the top, it's gonna be even bigger.
Yeah, we'll be coming back to talk to
Try
you.
to sell that as an antenna.
We'll be coming back to talk to you about that move,
Okay,
probably within the next couple of months.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Mr. Cunkey has our next issue related to the park plaza, which I hope and pray is open on the 25th.
I got my fingers crossed, I saw Steve's email today.
Yes, sir, I don't make promises, I just repeat what I'm told at this point. So you do have the fees as part of your fee ordinance tonight, but your guidelines for the use will actually be in an administrative directive. So he's gonna walk through the major components of that directive.
Thank you. Well, that's the end of the slideshow. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Good questions. Fastest one we've ever done. Here we go. We do anticipate quite a bit of use of this park, and it's different types of uses. There will be day use, people going out there for a picnic, or just tossing a frisbee, or maybe just sitting there and listening to their iPod if they still have iPods. But there also be a heavy use for city special events, for Western Days, obviously, for the concerts. They'll be moved to that plaza stage. The events that we work with, Chalk This Way and Brewfest, they'll make heavy use of that park also. Keep tradition alive. We're not sure how it's going to work, but we know it'll incorporate it somehow. And the third area is rental events. And we've already been contacted by some people interested in having events in that plaza. We've had a couple people asking about weddings, somebody else asking about another activity altogether. We've had contact from a Shakespeare in the Park group. So there's going to be some rental activity in that park. We don't know how much. It might be a lot, it might be a little. We think it'll start slow and grow. We thought that with the Art Center, and we greatly underestimated the impact there. We now have, 1,600 events? 1,400. 1,400. It's a ridiculously high number. It keeps going up. Some big ones coming up, we hope. We're trying to get them booked. So we had to prepare a directive that could address all of these. Day use of the park, like we do in other parks, but also these rental activities. So there's some rules that are common to all Lewisville parks, and those would still be in place in the plaza. The hours of operation, still 6 in the morning to 11 at night. Actually, the ordinance says it the other way around, says it's closed from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. There'd be exceptions made for rental events or for special events.
Okay, isn't this park in our entertainment district?
It is.
So wouldn't we want to make the hours contiguous with the entertainment district hours?
The reason we didn't is because after 11, well, partly because PD wants consistency for enforcement. If they see somebody just sitting in the dark in the park at 11:30, they know that they can say you need to move along. But if there's an event or an activity in the park, then we have the ability in the directive to extend the hours during that event. We just didn't want to have a situation where the park became a inappropriate gathering place between 11 and midnight.
What my thought is, though, if you've got restaurants and stuff that are staying open and having patrons and stuff, and some people want to walk over and sit down or something before they go home or something, that's not good. You think that's a dangerous thing between that and the time the restaurant's closed?
Well, a lot of people want to just sit after dark.
Well, I guess we can change it if we get, I'm thinking if we get these restaurants over here open, if we get several restaurants over there, that would be a pass-through area or a place that might be more.
Well, obviously, it wouldn't be a big deal for us if somebody's just walking through, getting from point A to point B. We wouldn't care about that.
Right. I was thinking like Denton Square.
It's not going to be good at all. I mean, it's open technically.
Okay, we can change it if it gets to where.
We always can adjust it if we see use that changes the pattern.
That's fine, that's the only thing I was thinking.
Prohibited items, same as in a regular park, can't have a campfire, can't shoot off fireworks, no firearms unless you're a police officer or you have your CHL. Pets have to be kept on a leash, you have to clean up afterward, same as all of our parks. Alcohol we'll address again in a later slide, but the policy for parks, by ordinance, alcohol is prohibited. You can't drink it or have an open container with it in a park, except for certain sites or events that are in the ordinance or action of council. Actually, his resolution of council can approve that also. And then just rules about the grounds. You can't attach stuff to our park, especially the signs and permanent fixtures. We don't want you attaching things to it that could damage the park. Those rules are common to all of them, and that really covers a lot of the day use issues. Rental is very different. For rental, we tried to come up with what we thought would be the probable uses, the probable interest areas in the plaza, make those available, but still have park functions available as well. We don't want to just take the park away from the public and say you can't enjoy this, especially since it is a pass-through through Old Town. So we developed 3 rental options. I'll show you a map in a moment, but just through verbiage, the great lawn would be the entire oval-shaped grass lawn plus the stage. The lower lawn would be the half of that oval next to the stage, and it would also include the stage. The idea there being if you're going to use the stage, you're probably going to need the grass lawn, but if somebody has the grass lawn, you're probably not going to want to rent just the stage. And then the third is the upper lawn, which is the half of the oval grass to the west of the walkway. Not the walkway itself. The walkway would remain open, but that'd be that other half. The rest of the plaza is not available for rental under the directive as it's currently drafted. That means Wayne Ferguson Plaza would remain open, the splash pad would remain open, the little triangular wedge lawn that you, oops, can't use a pin to point. Little triangular wedge of lawn you see right here would remain open, so there'd always be a grass lawn area for the public, even if there's something going on in the oval. We wouldn't rent out the walkway or anything like that. Only the stage area here, which they poured the floor of the stage today, yay. And then the grass oval here. And the only time that walkway would be closed down is if someone rented the entire oval and they paid to barricade it. We'll talk about barricades in a minute. Otherwise, people could still pass through. If that area were totally closed off, then pedestrians could pass through this way or this way to get over to Main Street. We did go to the building official and get an official capacity for the plaza, just for the rental area. Standing room is a factor of 5 square foot per person. That the lower lawn can hold 743, the upper lawn can hold 743 for a total of just under 1,500 people. Remember, that's just the part in the oval. So the plaza itself has a larger capacity when you add in that triangular wedge, you add in the walkways, but just the rental area up to 1,486. Loose chair seating, that's what concerts usually are. People bring a blanket or a lawn chair, so they take up more space than in standing room. And for that, you see 530 for half of it or 1060 for the whole thing. And as with any other facility we have, any other business for that matter, if capacity is reached, the fire marshal can come in and close access to the park until people leave, so that we don't get into an unsafe situation in the rental area. Reservations process, essentially the same as what we do now at MCL Grand, and MCL Grand will handle the rentals for this. Reservations here can be made up to 1 year in advance. That's a difference from the MCL Grand, which is a longer window, but the plaza, generally people are not going to be, we don't think, planning more than a year in advance. If they do, we can adjust it down the road. Minimum of 10 business days in advance. That's largely so we can provide staffing and equipment and notify the public if there's a need to. If a rental request comes in with less than 10 business days and we're able to accommodate it, we will, but they have to pay in full at that time in order to get that reservation.
And when they do that, is there a non-refund?
That is correct. That is correct, non-refundable. So if you come in 9 days in advance of your event and you want it, you have to pay the whole thing. You don't get anything back if you cancel. So really, we don't want those 10-day or less reservations, but we understand occasionally they might come up and they might be reasonable. Standing reservations are not allowed. This is the same as the MCL Grand policy. That's a situation, in the MCL Grand, we actually had a request from a church that wanted to rent out our central theater every single Sunday morning. We wouldn't want to do that because then you can't have Saturday night performances because they can't clear out in time. So it would wipe out your whole weekend indefinitely. So we don't allow standing reservations, which is 4 times in a 4-month period with the basically same event, same time, same date. So you still could have monthly activities, but you couldn't do more than monthly in terms of frequency.
So how would that impact something like a farmer's or community market?
Those would be a permitted event with the city, and so they would be exempt from that provision. If we worked with, say, Main and Mill on a weekly farmer's market, that would not come into this. If somebody from the outside wanted to come in and rent the park for a weekly dinner with the clowns or whatever, we wouldn't be able to do it weekly. It'd have to be once a month if it lasted that long.
It could happen.
It could happen. If you want to
I
dinner with
think
the
I'm on
clowns,
that
call
mailing
me. We've come up with we already have a special events permit, and some events trigger a special event permit requirement. If you close a street, if you have powered stage, if you have certain vendors and other requirements, you have to have a special event permit. This park is designed for gathering, so it would take some very significant steps to require a special event permit, but some smaller parameters might trigger additional need for equipment or staffing or security issues on site. So we created what we call a plaza event application. So any event that fits one of these items, one of these criteria, would have to do this application. It's a no-cost application. They just have to fill it out, and we have it there. And that gives us a chance, just like we do with the MCL Grand, it just has more detail. We can identify where there might be problem areas. You can see here if they're going to have amplified sound later than 9 weekdays or 10 weekends. Now, the entertainment district allows it later than that, but our thought is if it's going to be later than 9 weekdays or 10 weekends, we want to be able to notify people. This is going to happen. You're going to have loud noises till 11 or 12. On-site food preparation, any alcohol sales or alcohol service to the public. If they're going to have more than 500 people, remember the capacity, 500 for half if they have a loose chair. If they're going to have 500 people, that affects parking. You might have to close Church Street and so forth. So we need to know if they're going to expect that big of a crowd. Also to require portlets, those types of things. Any request to close a street or alley, if they're going to use a 25 kilowatt or larger generator, that's not a huge generator, but it's big enough, we want an electric person to come out and examine it before the event. So we put it in there, we need to know it's coming. Or if they're going to have a combined square footage of tents or canopies of more than 1,000 square feet. So 10 by 10s, for example, or any combination thereof. Again, wouldn't normally require a special event permit, but in this case, we want to know it's coming because we need to know where they're going to be placed, make sure access is okay, make sure they're safe, make sure we're prepared to handle that kind of a crowd. Does not replace any permits that might be required. If you have to have a special event permit, you still do. A tent permit, you still do. A food handler permit, you still do. This is just an added step to make sure we're able to handle an event and they don't show up and things just fall apart. Stage and stage equipment. We do have power built into the stage. More than we started with, maybe less than we would have liked, but a good amount of power with separate circuits. We don't just want any old person walking up and using that power grid, because there's bad things that can happen. We also are in the process of ordering a motorized lighting truss that will raise up and down, that'll have a canopy cover on top, and it can hold a lighting grid up there. If you have a Shakespeare in the Park, you can't do it in the dark. Not much to see. So we've got those things. We already do have an outdoor sound system that MCL Grant has that we believe can work very well in the plaza. We haven't tested it, of course, but we are confident it will. So we've got some rules in the directive. One of them says if you use our equipment, we run it, you pay us to use it, and you pay us to run it. That's the same thing as MCL Grant. If they want to bring in their own equipment, they can, but they have to give us the list and the layout in advance. We have to approve it, and we don't run it, they run it. But you can see how that is here. We have to inspect it first to make sure they're not going to blow our power, make sure they're not doing anything unsafe or inappropriate. And again, those are essentially the same thing we do at MCL Grant. Most clients at MCL Grant use our equipment. Very rarely do they bring something in unless it's just a follow spot or some kind of piece of equipment we don't have. It might happen more often in the plaza. We just don't know. But we made both options available. Here's the alcohol question. And we are going to be coming to you probably in October with a couple of changes in other documents in order to accommodate this. City ordinance prohibits consumption of alcohol or possession of an open container with alcohol in a public park, except for certain exceptions. And most of the exceptions are there's areas of Lake Park where you can, there's areas of Central Park where you can with a permit, and then it says a special site designated by a resolution of council. Now in your council policy 4.0, which is described right below here, it has a list of 11 locations. These are city facilities, including some parks, where alcohol can be served without coming back to council. For example, the Art Center is on that list. And also Railroad Park, I believe, is on that list. And then there's 40 locations where alcohol can be sold, either locations or events. Western Days is one, as an example. So that's in there. The proposal from staff is going to be to add Old Town Plaza to these. Understanding that we think there's some language cleanup in both the policy and the ordinance that needs to be a part of that, we're working on the language. So we will have that for you hopefully in October. So staff recommendation is that you continue to prohibit alcohol for day use. So people aren't just sitting around on a bench, drinking their beer and watching the world go by. The drawback is if Bob and Sue want to go out and have a picnic and drink a glass of wine with a picnic, they can't. But that's true in our other city parks for the most part already. But we do want to add the facility to the list of allowed park locations for sale or service in connection with city events or rental events. So if someone rents the plaza and wants to serve alcohol or sell alcohol, they could under certain rules, or for a city event, if we wanted to do it, we could. You have the option of allowing alcohol under any use. You have the option of saying no alcohol whatsoever. We can go however you choose. That's our recommendation there. And we'll come back for input at the end of unless you want to discuss it now. I was saying we can come back for input at the end unless you wanted to pause, and I don't see anyone pausing. Smoking in the plaza. Smoking is prohibited inside city facilities. The MCL Grand Courtyard also is prohibited smoking. Most outdoor areas in parks, smoking is allowed, but it's prohibited at certain locations. The tennis complex, concessions and restrooms at the athletic complexes, within 10 feet of dugouts, benches, playing fields at the athletic complexes, the pools, and the amphitheater restroom and the amphitheater concourse during events. We also found some language cleanup on this we're going to bring back to you in October. But that's what the rules are right now, and that's the rules we'll be operating under in the plaza.
That, when we bring it back, we would be looking at the whole vaping issue. We've had several of you ask us about that, so we would be bringing that back to consideration.
The whole what?
Vaping, the
Oh.
new thing.
Yeah.
Or
Vaping.
nicotine vaporizers.
What I just penciled here was vaping.
So, staff recommendation is to treat the plaza like any other park, allow smoking in the park. You could have certain areas, such as the splash pad, where you say within 10 feet of that, not allowed, because there's a congregation of children. But also to grant authority for staff to prohibit smoking at certain events that will include a large crowd, such as the Sounds of Louisville concerts. And we put that in there partly because large crowds, we want to avoid smoking, but also council specifically added the MCL Grand Courtyard because of the Sounds concerts. Recognizing that you've made that move before, our recommendation is to make it again. So that's what we're suggesting here, is to allow it in the parks, possibly with certain exceptions, like you've done in the athletic complex, and the splash pad's the most obvious one. But also to give us the ability to say no smoking at this concert or at this particular event. And we would have to put signage up to that effect.
This seems like it's gonna get very confusing if you, when you can, especially if you, to visitors.
And that's why you have the option here of just saying allow smoking no matter what, or prohibit it no matter what,
I was thinking more restrict areas, like you mentioned earlier.
which is
Yeah,
all,
restricted areas that would stay restricted all the time. In other words, you wouldn't have the confusion, but you'd have only certain areas where you could smoke and certain areas where you couldn't
You could
smoke.
sign it.
and there's a precedent for that in the policy.
Yeah.
So we can draft language to that effect as well.
I just, the other seemed like it get confusing.
Of course, we're going to bring back policy statement 4.0 to you, and that's where we would probably put this, is in the policy statement, and then the directive would simply support the policy. So when we come back to you and we anticipate October, we'll have something for you to consider at that point. Food and beverage service, rental clients can do their own concessions if it is packaged items, packaged chips, packaged cookies, packaged soft drinks. They can do concessions. If they do food service, that's serving prepared food, not packaged food, then we get to decide where the vendor is placed in the plaza, and they have to have their valid health permit. Food trucks can be allowed only on the south side of Church Street adjacent to the curb. That way they're serving into the park, but they're not in the park, and there's nobody crossing the street to get to them. And we would require they be registered with the MCL grant as an approved caterer. And we do that because that helps us check their insurance requirements, make sure the health permit is valid. It also is a very small revenue source, sadly very small. We'd love to see it bigger because they're taking advantage of some of our facilities. And then the last one, catering, they also have registered as an MCL grant approved caterer for the same reason.
Do we have any parameters, or do we see any issues where we may have more food trucks wanting, I mean, hopefully we get to this problem. We have more food trucks than we have curb space for them.
That would be, if they're going to bring in food trucks, they have to do that plaza event application, and we'd be able to look at that and tell them and limit the number of food trucks. If they have that many food trucks, they've outgrown the plaza. You only get 1,400 people in there, and if you have that many food trucks, you've got way too many people.
Send it down to the rodeo.
Yeah, that's when you close down Church Street and everything else and you have a big old fence festival. If it becomes an issue, it's certainly possible food trucks might start contacting us saying, hey, I want to set up there every Friday from noon to 6. Right now they can't. We'd have to go through an approval process for that. We're not addressing that in the directive. We're just addressing for rental activities, that they could put them there.
They could if it's on a route.
If it's on a
I
scheduled,
mean, there's
correct.
different options here on food trucks, so you have to be careful about saying that you just can't. Because if it's a route, they could.
Probably take into consideration new restaurants we're trying to bring in too.
Correct.
Yes, absolutely.
For the most part, the ones that are on a regular route are going to construction sites or certain office buildings where they have the same customers every day. It's unusual they'd go to a spot like this.
That could
That
open,
could
that
change.
could
If
change.
it opens up and changes, we'll have to
That
address
might be
that.
something to bring back with more specific provisions for the food trucks.
I mentioned earlier that the only time that the north-south walkway would be closed is when the park is rented and barricaded. The rules we have in here, first off, security personnel, if a rental client wants security, or if we tell them they have to have security, then it has to be done through Louisville PD. We don't want, you might remember the story a number of years ago now, but the one everybody talks about when a concert in California hired the Hells Angels as their security guards. The Hells Angels started beating people up. We don't want that. We want our police to be out there not beating people up and providing security. So they would arrange that there, which is the same that we do in a lot of other areas of the city. Barricades, a rental client cannot set up their own barricades. They can't just come in and set up tables or fences or ropes or whatever other barricades and say, this is my spot, keep out. If their event is one where they think they need to have barricades, or if we think they need to have barricades to control access, there'll be our barricades, the bike rack that we use for parades. We will tell them where it goes. We'll have a couple of perimeters, the whole plaza or half and half. And we'll set it up, they won't be allowed to move it, and when it's done, we'll take it down, and we will charge them for the rental and the service. You'll see in the rental fees how we've done that. One line to note is we will not be responsible for monitoring barricades. Let's say they're having a ticketed event, they're charging $20 a head to go in, they pay for the barricades. We're not going to put city staff out there walking the barricades. That's up to them. We'll put them up, and we'll take them down.
Well, now to that, what about the alcohol?
TABC doesn't require a physical barricade. They require you monitor and control access.
But
In
who's-
many cases, we would require it.
Okay, but who's responsible for doing that? That's what
The
I'm
client
saying.
is responsible for doing that.
Okay.
They would be the one that would hold the permit. They'd be responsible for TABC regulations.
But then I guess we have to police it?
No, actually, it should be TABC that polices it.
Okay.
Right. And just like MCL Grand, if somebody comes to MCL Grand and they provide their own alcohol service, they get the permit. They're responsible for following all the rules. And if there's a citation, they get it.
Okay.
Rental fees at the plaza, and I'll show you the numbers in a moment, but just to let you know how we developed them, we had two primary goals. We wanted to have a fair value. We wanted the plaza to be something where you're getting your money's worth, but it's not so cheap that just, it's constantly rented. And we lose money on our expenses. We want to recover our costs to the degree we can, because it does cost money. This will be a very high maintenance park. It will be, compared to some of our neighborhood parks, it'll be very high in maintenance. We try to set a market value by looking at our existing structures, our parks, MCL Grand. We also looked at other cities in the area to find a comparable park, and we found there's really not one. There are parks that are rented, there are amphitheaters and stages, but one that's this size, this location, these amenities is just not really out there. And the ones that are, there's really no consistency in renting. I'll give you a quick story. We called about Clyde Warren Park, even though it's much larger and doesn't quite have the same things. And we called to get what their rental fees were, and their answer was, well, what do you want to do? We said, we just want to know what your rental fees are. Well, it depends. What do you want to do? It's run by a private foundation on behalf of the city, and they set their rental fees based on what you want to do. We can't do that. So they were not a good example for us. Just not a consistent approach. Some cities actually set their fees very high because they don't want to rent it out at all. We did not do that with these fees. Again, we have the three options: the whole lawn, we call it the great lawn, the lower lawn, the upper lawn. So it's the whole oval with the stage, the lower oval, or the upper oval. 4-hour rental on prime days or off prime days. Prime is basically your weekends, and off prime is the rest. Prime is a little bit higher because it costs us more to staff it. You can see the park crew numbers there. We don't include reduced rates for nonprofits because our costs aren't changing. And so instead of having a lower one and a higher one, we just put them all at a reasonable kind of mid-range, so everybody's getting a good deal. There's the numbers right here. They're slightly higher than for other parks. They're a little bit lower than MCL Grand, so we tried to hit that mid-range there. Just as an idea, if you're doing the Great Lawn for 4 hours, it's $440. If you're doing just half, it's $275 for the park with stage, $165 without. And that's on a prime day. You can see that it's cheaper on a non-prime, and the hourly rates are exactly 1/4 of the 4-hour window. So very simple math there. Other fees that are in there, the barricades are $500 for the whole lawn, $300 for half. Frankly, we don't want to set up the barricades. That'll involve public services staff bringing them out and park staff setting them up. It'll cost us money to set up the barricades. We set it at $500 because we think our cost will be right about $500. But also, if somebody's paying $440 to rent it and it's going to be $500 more for a barricade, they're going to have to really want those barricades to rent it. So that is a discouraging right there. And then we have one last item for you, stand-up wedding rental. If somebody just wants to get married in the park and get in there with 30 people or fewer, be there for 30 minutes or less and not set a bunch of equipment, but they really want to get married in that park, they can do that now. But if they want to be guaranteed their favorite spot, they can do a $50 rental. We'll put up signs to guarantee them their spot. Because otherwise, you show up for your wedding, your spot's taken, there's nothing we can do about it. So we created that. They don't have to do it, but if they want to guarantee their spot, there's a $50, and that's for, again, 30 maximum guests, 30 maximum minutes, no chairs, no sound.
And those fees are in item 7 on your agenda?
They are. The last item under the fees, knowing that Main and Mill or Old Town Business Association is a good partner with us, they want to do a lot of activities out there, they want to be active. We do have the options here. A lot of times they come to you for a waiver of fees.
Is this your last slide?
This is the last slide.
Okay.
You have the option of exempting all the events that are city-supported, all the events that are city-sponsored, exempt them all or exempt them none. What we are saying is we would probably look at either supported or exempted, not all or none. But we do say that fees for outside labor or fees for equipment rental, we would not recommend waiving at all because that is a hard cost to us and we want to recover that cost.
All supported and exempted do come through council. Is that right?
Depends. Most of them do. There might be some that wouldn't, but most of them do come forward to you at some point for some sort of approval. Yeah, that's just the same thing.
Okay. We need to go ahead. I know I've got a lot of questions. I'm sure everybody else got a lot of questions. We need to run through the deal. If we get done in time, we'll come back to this. We're going to go ahead and go back to the regular council agenda first, and then if we have time, we can come back and ask some questions, okay? Item 1.
This is your development agreement. The housing development located on the property off of Mill Street. This is a very exciting project for Old Town. It's called South Village and will be composed of 75 single-family homes.
I have a question on this. One of the things is we are agreeing to reimburse 100% of the development fees. Is that correct?
That is correct, but the way that works is that they are reimbursed as a CO is pulled per unit. So there's a calculation.
They're not really reimbursed, they're just an amount equal to.
Correct.
Okay, that part I understand. But my question is, are we setting up a structure here where it's done for this project, and as we see a lot on some of these other things, then the next project comes in, and then they cite it having been done previously for the 2 or 3 before it?
You actually already have that situation. I mean, this is a Chapter 380 agreement, and we've had those similar agreements in the past per project. So it depends on the development, and it depends on what the council's willing to do for that development, but it has been done in the past.
And this has a 6-year,
This has a 6-year plan time, yes.
Okay. all right. Thank you.
Question I had on it, because it's kind of gone back and forth, and now we're in the middle. At first, it wasn't going to be detached, then I heard it was, then I was told by staff it was going to be detached. And then now I'm saying we're having, it says a mix of attached and detached. What's the
About
mix?
6 units that are attached, and that's really, if you look at the layout,
I couldn't see anything where it showed what was going to be attached or detached.
yeah, it
Maybe
actually shows,
that's what I looked for and I didn't see.
Post office, Jack Drive, just these two
Oh, that's fine.
goofy legs, it's got a 6 and a 6, the rest of them are all.
can you show that to the public?
Yeah, show
there?
about that somehow. I
So
don't know.
it's 12 total units, 2 of 6, right?
I didn't see it on there. Where are you seeing that? On what?
I was in the documentation, I saw it say 2 units of 6, but I didn't see where they were in the
That's what I was
layout.
looking for. Okay, yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
looking for.
it's
Okay.
on this location there.
Yeah, it's also 2 little arms there, I think.
Makes
Over on
sense.
Charles
Those
Street.
2, the one that's back onto Charles,
Yeah, here's the,
each one is 12, each one is 6
it's
units?
6 units, so it's a
Yeah.
total of 12
Right.
attached
12.
units in 2 blocks of 6.
Is that what
That's
the
what-
wording says?
That's what I saw and that's how I
That is
interpreted the
correct.
wording.
These are the detached or the attached?
These are the detached.
The majority of the development is detached.
Right.
Yes.
So you just have that Yes, they look like that. The
12 units?
Are attached, and that really is because of the layout, the land that's available. And we do have the developer, representatives of the developer here also, if you have questions.
Yeah, if everybody look at that deal there, you can see those two little arms there, it's got 6 lots on each one. But that's, it didn't show, and that's was my question. Is that other rendering, is that the attached? I guess it's page 4 of that handout he just gave us. Is that the attached?
Could be, they are.
Yeah, that's the reason I was wondering.
That's the idea, yes, sir.
Yeah,
Okay.
6-unit townhome is the,
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Okay. You see on page 4 what the attached is versus,
Page 4?
yeah, right, count from the front to the, go back 4 pages.
there you go.
That's the attached. Okay, that's all we need. Okay, I just wasn't sure about it.
And that was a change that we got fairly late in the process, ma'am.
Okay,
So 60 standalone units and 12 attached units.
63.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't do math. There you go. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Anybody got any other questions on 1? Item 2.
This is another Centurion development. This is a development along Josie Lane. This actually involves annexation of property. We had a public hearing previously. You've got another item on your agenda, item 13, related to a boundary adjustment for this development. It's 156 acres. You're going to have 526 lots, varying from 5,000 to 8,000 square feet. Average home price is 350,000 to 600,000.
Chieftain, you're great with this location, I hear.
He selected this location for the fire station.
Super.
So the Rockfish restaurant that's opening at 121 in Josie, is that Louisville or Castle Hills? That's what I thought.
It's in that sales tax. deal.
That's what I thought. They kept trying to tell me, I said, ma'am, I think you're in Castle Hills.
Yes. We
They
got
pay
that
sales tax
invitation,
in
didn't we? Yes.
Louisville.
Yeah.
I
You get
tried to be
confused
there
'cause it's a
anyway.
Louisville event,
I
so
understand,
like that
I understand.
It's in Thursday.
Yeah. Not this Thursday.
It's
it's
next week.
Next week.
22nd.
23rd.
It's a
Yeah,
Tuesday.
23rd.
It's a
I think it's
Tuesday,
23rd, yeah.
it's a Tuesday.
Okay. Anybody got anything else on 2? Item 3.
This really goes hand in hand with item 2. Item 2, the agreement does talk about the establishment of a public improvement district. So this is the petition calling for a public hearing that would be held at your October 6th meeting.
Item 4.
This is state buying a small sliver of land from us. Paying $16,000 for that.
What about the deal on 35?
I'm sorry?
The 35.
Yes.
Is it
Garden Ridge.
No, it's not Garden Ridge.
Is that what you're talking
Oh, the
about?
other item, the
Yeah.
other item, that is still pending.
The condemnation?
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
still pending.
Okay, item 5. Oh, I haven't waived anything from them.
I'm circling the ordinance.
Up for Trinity.
Changing the ordinance, waiving right-of-way crossing fees for Upper Trinity and DCTA. Private sector would continue to pay us.
Stuff for DCTA, not for Upper Trinity. Okay. Item 6.
Budget. Budget amendment on this one.
Item 7.
The fee schedule we just talked about.
Now that, Do we want to go ahead and approve that? I got a lot of questions. I don't know. I think Neil had a lot of
I have
questions.
questions too, and some of them do revolve around this item, and I wondered about tabling it, or is that gonna create a problem that you need to have this in place promptly?
No, sir, you can table this and we can bring it back to you.
I'd like to table it, maybe.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Okay.
Maybe bring it back to, for the next agenda, and have a workshop session to finish it up while it's still fresh on our minds.
Okay. I'll make that motion if you want.
Okay. Item 8. That won't affect this though, will it? Operating budget to fees? Okay.
Item 7, I do want to think about it in a minute. As I think about it, the water, the Castle Hills rates are in there for wholesale water. Can that be delayed, the meeting, Steve? I think so.
Or
Okay,
can-
then we're okay.
Can we make a motion to approve that part?
We could, but then it's probably fine that we wait the meeting. Yeah, okay. We're fine.
Look at item 8. Item 9.
Item 9, whomever does make the motion, please look at the recommendation. That has to be stated specifically on item 9.
That reading thing?
I know, I did
You got
last
your
time, and
magnifier.
somebody said, somebody called on you, and I said, no, they said don't call on Rick. Okay. Item 10. Item 11. If I'm looking at this right now, this is across the street from the other development that's being currently done right now, correct?
Well, I'm not sure of the development you're talking about.
The one that Murdoch's doing on Summit in College.
It's not directly across the street.
Yeah, there's one called Crescent Estates.
Isn't it across the street there?
Yeah,
Because it butts up
it's
to
Caddy
the.
Corner.
It's Caddy Corner.
This is a little bit further north and across the street.
Right.
Yeah.
It backs up to the Louisville Estates, the project we're talking about now.
Yes.
Backs up
Yes,
to
it
the
does.
Louisville Estates,
It
which
does.
is, yeah, okay, that's what I thought, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought, okay,
And this is the one that has the 5 variances?
Correct.
yes.
I had a question about when we allow public utilities under private pavement, does that create any additional cost for us if we have to go in there and make any repairs or adjustments?
David, you want to respond to that?
We've done those variances in the past. Typically, we add a condition, a variance that the developer or the homeowners association is responsible for pavement repair.
We did that for the, Dairy Queen was the last one we did that for, right? I think so.
Jeff, do you have a pen?
No, I just wanted to be available.
Didn't see you sitting there.
Sorry.
Do we have that in place here? Because I didn't see it.
I didn't get it out of the backup material either.
Is
It
that
is
in
gonna
place
be
for
in
this?
place. Is that what I'm being told?
It's not stated in the backup now.
That has not been negotiated.
Has not been negotiated, but I think we can make it part of it, and we can make sure it's worded as such in HOA documents.
Can we make the
Yes.
motion regarding that particular item subject to?
Because that would be great. I'd like to see it that the city doesn't bear any additional expense because we're allowing them to be put under, utilities to be put under private.
We will have, the storm sewer and the sanitary sewer mains will be under the pavement. The water main will be outside of the pavement and near the sidewalk.
Okay, well, if you could make sure some kind of language gets in there, I appreciate it.
Okay.
I'll call you that, I'll call on you on that, for that item, and then you can suggest it.
Jeff can probably let me know. get with Liz and write something out for us, so we
Yeah.
can make sure that that's
That
included.
the motion covers that.
Just that that variance is contingent on that, the normal waiver we have, and the normal condition that the homeowners or the developer is responsible.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Anything else on it? Item 12. Item 13. On this, you've got written, this should be done before consent. What do you mean by that?
You can pull it, Mayor, and do it first because the item number 2 has a whereas clause in it saying that this item was approved by the city council, so just the timing of
It's out of order.
it. Sorry.
It's out of order.
That's ordered
Also, you want me to pull this and put it, or just do this before?
before consent.
Okay.
Or pull 2 and put it after this.
Right, or you can pull the
I'll just do
consent
this.
item
I'll just do this. It's up here, so I don't forget. Is that number 13?
Yes, sir.
So it will be the first item on the agenda then, basically.
13 will be?
Yes. Okay. You got it highlighted there. Okay. And out of 14, I'll be abstaining. Insurance business. Any other questions on the agenda, council? Julie? Liz? Donna?
No, sir.
We got just a couple minutes here. What if we, back on the workshop session about the Park Plaza, what if we gave you just a list of questions we have? That way, when you come back to us, you could have some process on.
That would work.
One I had was like, what are we gonna do as far as like allowing people to put up tents, you know, for shade and stuff like that? We don't need any answers now or anything. I think you pretty well answered the deal about the security, because it sounds to me like we're gonna need quite a bit of additional manpower down there pretty much any time it's happening, just to make sure the rules are observed. So you can kind of look that up. And then, maybe I didn't see anything, maybe I missed it. No, not allowing glass containers at all, no matter what.
I don't believe we have that.
But to me, that would be a,
That's in the general park ordinance?
okay, but I didn't see it in for this, and they were talking about doing stuff. That's what I would like to see. No glass. And then another thing was, when you start letting people do things, stuff that's inappropriate. We had a, if you remember, before we moved the concert series over to the MCL, we used to have it in the middle there, and we had somebody get up there on the stage and started singing songs and started using some really inappropriate language and things and stuff, and we finally went up there and told them they couldn't. They just ignored us, and we finally shut their mics off. But how do we do that?
Probably a security issue.
But I mean, is there something in there we said that's not allowed?
I guess I'm not sure what you mean by inappropriate.
There's a lot of pretty nasty stuff. Vulgar
Well, I mean,
language and
Yeah,
doing things to people. and-
Get us into a community standards issue.
I know it's a touchy issue, but that's something, and I'm not saying do it now, but that's something we need to look at, because I can see somebody getting up there and start doing some things, just like at that concert, and it's like, whoa, where's this coming from? And
And that really wasn't a scheduled act, if
No.
I remember properly.
Yeah,
I mean, so
they
to
can-
me, that gets into a security issue. They weren't a
Right.
scheduled act, they got up, and we would
At
be able to
at
move
some point,
on.
somebody representing the event would ask them to leave. If they
Right.
don't leave, it's criminal trespass.
Right.
But at what point do you ask them to? I guess that's my deal, but we don't need to answer now. I don't want to get into it
They're not a
now.
scheduled event, as soon as they get up there, whether they're being vulgar or not, you can ask them to leave, because.
No, but if they were part of a scheduled event and they started doing some stuff, we'll look at, you can kind of get it later. I think Neil had some questions. I don't know if you were there that night. He was talking about doing things to people.
I missed that.
So questions I have. Oh, you're ready?
Yeah.
One of them's probably, I don't even need to ask, but there was nothing mentioned about insurance by individuals renting the park for different purposes, and I assume that there is insurance requirements.
There would be.
Okay. We talked about the entertainment district, that we would be setting a more restrictive use on this facility as far as outdoor noise. My view is that we set up the entertainment district to have it operate as an entertainment district. I don't know why we would pick on this particular, center of the entertainment district and say, well, we're gonna do something different here, and we're gonna send out notices to neighbors, and I'm not understanding the need for making a set of exclusions, especially something that's so centrally located in the entertainment district and so very much part of the entertainment district. Regarding OTDA, but not really OTDA, I'm concerned about setting a precedent for organizations as far as having kind of a carte blanche handed to them for activities, particularly at this stage of the game. Me personally, I'd rather see how this plays out on it over time and then decide, all right, are we willing to hand somebody a pass for the year, so to speak? But I'd rather not do that at this stage. Wait and see how things start to evolve.
That's the origin of my question.
So bring it back with each event, just
At
as we do.
this point in time,
Okay.
yes. And eventually, maybe we would go to that with organizations where there's a level of confidence and an understanding of what it is they do and how they go about it and what kind of mess they leave behind, but not initially. Let's see.
Got a minute?
In a taste of type event, I assume that all kitchens, all preparers would have to have a food license. Okay. We have a discount for nonprofits at the MCL. That's not in place at this facility, but both of them are basically entertainment oriented. I mean, it's a park, but it's an entertainment oriented venue. I would favor doing something for the nonprofits in order to try and draw in as you mentioned, Shakespeare in the Park or other organizations to give some atmosphere and activity to the park that it might not otherwise get. So, and it's not like we are reinventing the wheel to do that. I've got a few other thoughts. I'll meet with you.
Yeah, why don't, because it's 7 o'clock. If you've got any other comments for Lane, if you'll get them to Donna, then she can, when she comes back next week with it, she can kind of have some idea of what we're looking at. It is 7 o'clock. We do have a quorum. I'll call the city council meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the invocation led by Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Ferguson, and then the pledge, both American and Texas flags, will be led by myself.
Please rise with me for a moment of silent prayer. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Visitor Citizens Forum. At this time, any person with business before the council not scheduled on the agenda may speak to the council. No formal action can be taken on these items at this meeting. And I did not have a speaker card filled out for that. Next item, we're going to go out of order a little bit. We're going to go to item number 13. Was it 13? Hold on.
Yes, sir.
Yes, item 13. Consideration of a resolution approving boundary adjustment agreements between the city and the town of Hebron, which adjust their common boundary line, thereby relinquishing certain land presently with the town limits of Hebron to Lewisville, and authorizing city manager or her designee to execute the agreements. The Texas Local Government Code allows adjacent municipalities which desire to make mutually agreeable changes in their boundaries of areas that are less than 1,000 feet in width to do so by agreement. On July 7, 2014, the town of Hebron passed an ordinance approving the boundary adjustment agreements, which are attached to this proposed resolutions as Exhibits A and B. Through these agreements, Hebron and Lewisville agreed to establish new boundary lines by Hebron disannexation and waiver of any extraterritorial jurisdiction over the land described in the exhibits attached to the agreements and subsequent annexation of the land by Lewisville. Recommendation is that council adopt the proposed resolution and authorize the city manager or her designee to execute the agreements. Councilman Durham?
Mayor, move to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Durham to approve as presented, a second by Councilman Ferguson. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we're going to go back to the consent agenda. All the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests. For a citizen to request removal of an item, a speaker card must be filled out and submitted to the city secretary. Councilman Gilmore.
Move to approve as written.
Have a motion by Councilman Gilmore to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Second by Councilman Vaughn. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5 is I'm sorry.
I believe there's some that wanted to speak at the conclusion of consent.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. Yes, would Mr. Medad please come forward? You wanted to speak at this? I beg your pardon, sir. I missed that. Beg
Yes,
your pardon,
Mayor. My name is Merdad Moedi, Centurion American 1221, Highway 35E, Carrollton, Texas 75006. I just want a quick minute to thank you, thank all the council members and city manager for opportunity to work in your town. We're committed to this town, downtown and other locations, and just want to say thank you. That's about it.
Well, we want to thank you for coming into our community and showing your trust and faith in our community and putting your developments here, and we look forward to having a long-standing relationship with you over the many years.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And I apologize for missing that card, sir. Thank you, Bill. I'm sorry I missed it. I moved it over here. Item 5 is consideration of an ordinance amending the Louisville City Code, Chapter 2, Article 8, fees by adding a section for the waiver of certain fees for the Upper Trinity Regional Water District and Denton County Transportation Authority. Article 8, Section 2-201 of the General Development Ordinance requires an annual use fee of $10,000 per right-of-way crossing for entities that wish to install and maintain permanent facilities crossing a city right-of-way. The ordinance also requires a $500 fee per crossing for temporary installations. The proposed ordinance would exempt both the Upper Trinity Regional Water District and the Denton County Transportation Authority from paying the annual use fees associated with permanent and temporary right-of-way crossings. Recommendation is that council approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption above. Councilman Ferguson.
Move to approve the ordinance.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Ferguson to approve presented, second by Councilman Vaughn. Councilor.
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lewisville, Texas, amending the Louisville City Code, Chapter 2, Article 8, fees by adding a section for the waiver of certain fees for the Upper Trinity Regional Water District and Denton County Transportation Authority, providing a repealer, providing for severability, providing an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6 is consideration of ordinance amending the fiscal year 2013-14 adopted budget. The purpose of this ordinance is to amend the fiscal year 2013-14 adopted budget to include all supplements and changes approved by council throughout the year. A large percentage of these appropriations include the routine supplement completed each year for prior year encumbrances that overlap into the next fiscal year. Others relate to actions taken to fund unbudgeted items during the year. This ordinance will authorize 4 new supplements. 1, Insurance Risk Fund, $350,000 to account for possible workers' compensation claims that may hit prior to the end of the year. 2, Utility Fund, $753,951 in order to correctly account for refunding debt expense. 3, Tax Increment Financing Fund, $4,000 due to actual debt service requirements being $4,000 more than originally budgeted. And 4B Fund, $182,209 related to the effects of GASB 65, better known as GASB 65, and how bond issuance costs now need to be expensed as they are incurred. Recommendation of the council approve the ordinance as amended in the 2013-14 adopted budget. Councilman Vaughn.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the ordinance.
Second.
Have a motion to approve as presented and by Councilman Vaughn, a second by Councilman Ferguson. Councilor.
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lewisville, Texas, amending the previously adopted and approved budget ordinance for the fiscal year October 1st, 2013 to September 30th, 2014, by providing supplemental appropriations to the various funds, providing an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7 is consideration of an ordinance amending the Louisville Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Article 8, Section 2-201 fee schedule. As part of the annual budget process, changes to the fee schedule based on analysis of current charges are compared to cost recovery goals. Authorized charges that may no longer be applicable and new fees are reviewed and modifications proposed. These changes include items discussed at the budget workshop held on August 9th and August 18th, as well as newly proposed modification. Details for each recommended change are included in the backup information. Recommendation of council approve the ordinance amending the Louisville Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Article 8, Section 2-201 fee schedule. Councilman Ferguson.
Yes, Mayor, I move that we table this item in order to give additional time for staff and council and the city council to look at some of the issues related specifically to Old Town Park Plaza fees.
Table it to?
Date certain, next meeting, October 6th. Thank you.
Okay, to the next meeting, October 6th.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Ferguson, table to the October 6th meeting, a second by Councilman Gilmore. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8 is consideration of ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2014-15 operating budget. The proposed operating budget for all funds has been prepared by staff and reviewed by the City Council. Approval of this ordinance adopts an operating budget for all funds, beginning October 1, 2014 and ending September 30th, 2015. A draft budget document is available for public review at the City Secretary's office, the library, and the city website. Recommendation that council approve the proposed ordinance adopting fiscal year 2014-15 operating budget. Councilman Gilmore?
Move to approve as written.
Have a motion by Councilman Gilmore to approve as written.
Second.
Second by Councilman Ferguson. Counselor?
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lewisville, Texas, adopting and approving a budget for the City of Lewisville, Texas for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2014 and ending September 30th, 2015, providing an effective date and declaring an emergency.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 9 is consideration of ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2014-15 tax rate. This action will adopt the city's annual ad valorem tax rate for all taxable property at 0.436086 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. The rate combines the following maintenance and operations of 0.318766 cents in principal and interest on debt, 0.11732 for a total tax rate of 0.436086. While the proposed tax rate for fiscal year 2014-15 is lower than the 2013-14 tax rate of 0.44021, the proposed tax rate exceeds the effective tax rate of 0.420954. Therefore, specific language is required in the ordinance. The vote on this ordinance must be a record vote, and the motion to adopt the ordinance must be made in the following form. I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.436086, which is effectively a 3.5947% increase in the tax rate. Recommendation that council approve the proposed ordinance in adoption of the 2014-15 tax rate with the following motion. Councilman Gilmore?
Mayor, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.436086, which is effectively a 3.5947% increase in the tax rate.
Second. I have a motion by Councilman Gilmore, a second by Councilman Durham. Any discussion? Counselor?
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lewisville, Texas, establishing the tax rate and tax levy for the City of Lewisville, Texas for the year 2014 through 2015 upon all taxable property in said city in conformity with the laws of the state of Texas and the charter provisions and all ordinances of said city, providing a repealer, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10 is consideration of a development plan and project plan for the Hills of Vista Ridge planned unit development located on 14.62 acres at the northeast corner of Oak Bend Drive and Vista Ridge Mall Drive, as requested by Amalgamated Development LP on behalf of the property owner. On April 7, 2014, Lewisville City Council approved the zoning of a planned unit development district for the Hills of Vista Ridge per section 17-26 of the city's zoning ordinance. The PUD process requires subsequent approval of a development plan and project plan in order to complete the rezoning. These plans have been submitted for Phase 1 of the project, consisting of the northern 14.62 acre tract. Staff has reviewed the development plan and project plan to confirm that all requirements of the PUD ordinance have been addressed. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval by a vote of 7-0 at their meeting on September 2nd, 2014. I do have a card filled out here by Mr. Will Berry. He does not wish to speak, but he is here to answer any questions. He is with JBI Partners. Recommendation is council approve the plans as set forth in the caption above. Councilman Durham.
Mayor, move to approve as presented.
Second?
Have a motion by Councilman Durham, approved as presented, a second by Councilman Vaughn. Counselor?
There's no ordinance.
I'm sorry, I thought there was. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 11 is consideration of, I am on item 11, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Didn't want to miss it. Consideration of a preliminary plat for the Fireside Village Addition containing 35 residential lots and 4 common area lots located on 9.494 acres designated Townhouse 2 with 5 associated variances located on the southeast corner of Summit Avenue and College Parkway as requested by Cody Cranell, or Cranell, I apologize if I messed that up, P.E. of Cranell, and Martin Corporation, representing the property owner. The subject property was rezoned from general business to Townhouse 2 by City Council on June 4, 2012, with the intent to build 35 single-family detached residential units, which is allowed in the Townhouse 2 zoning district. The community was voluntarily deed restricted to residents aged 55 and older at the time of zoning, along with minimum dwelling size requirements. The applicant's plans for the development include creation of homeowners association to maintain both public and private landscaping, all private screening walls, and the private street. The lots and homes will conform to the requirements for a detached project in Townhouse 2 zoning with the exception of 5 variances. A, waive the alley requirement. B, allow a tubular steel fence with brick columns in lieu of the required masonry screening wall along the east boundary of the site. C, allow the community to be gated with private streets that are maintained by the homeowners association. D, allow public utilities under private pavement. And E, reduce the street intersection spacing from 350 feet to 120 feet between the proposed Fireside Lane and the existing College Parkway and Summit Avenue intersection. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the plat and variances at their August 19, 2014 meeting of 4-0. Recommendation that council approve the preliminary plat and associated variances as set forth in the caption above. Councilman Vaughn.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the preliminary plat and associated variances with an added stipulation to variance D, that maintenance and damaged pavement and/or sidewalk due to city maintenance is the responsibility of the homeowners association.
Second. Have a motion by Councilman Vaughn, a second by Councilman Durham. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 12 is consideration of a request to utilize associated city property at Lewisville Lake Park for the Friends of Leela, that damn half fundraising event, and consideration of a variance to the Lewisville City Code Section 2-20 regarding waiving special event permit fees. The Friends of Leela is planning a half marathon and a 5K event for Sunday, October 19, 2014. Both courses begin at Lake Park. Participants in the 5K will run on a route in the park. Half marathoners will run an out and back course out of the park and south on Mill Street across the dam. In addition to requests for a permit, the club is requesting a waiver of fees and use of city property for the event. As a fundraising and service group, the goal of the Friends is to help in the overall operation of the Lewisville Lake Environmental Learning Area, better known as LELA, through sponsoring events, helping fund projects, and raising the awareness of LELA as an asset to the community and surrounding areas. Recommendation that City Council approve the variance in use of the property as set forth in the caption above. Councilman Ferguson.
Move to approve the request to utilize the property and the variance.
Have a motion by Councilman Ferguson to approve the property and the variance.
Second.
Second by Councilman Gilmore. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're going to go to item 14, and I will be abstaining from item 14. So, Mayor Pro Tem Gilmore, I'll turn this over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 14 will be a consideration of a contract award to AS&G for workers' compensation third-party administrator services in the amount of $44,650 for a 3-year period with an option to renew for 2 additional years, and authorization for the city manager to execute all required contracts. The city sent out a request for proposal in May for third-party administrator services for workers' compensation. AS&G submitted the best proposal for third-party administrator services. Funding is available in the Insurance Risk Fund proposed fiscal year 2014-15 budget. Recommendation is that the city council approve the contract award as set forth in the caption above. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Durham, second by Councilman Ferguson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Julie, can we let the mayor back in?
You may have left.
He may have. Still got a quorum. I don't know how we did it without you, Mayor, but I'm glad to have you back.
You're very kind and generous. Remember, you're under oath. Okay, that brings us down to reports. Aisha.
No reports.
Bob. You Tittle. Linda. Chief Kerbo. You remember when I used to say, look at you and think about her husband and call you Chief Galler? You remember that?
I do remember that.
I hadn't done that in a long time. I'm getting better. Carol. Carol, this is between you and Bob. I've been getting a lot of reports that we need to do something with the Texas Park and Wildlife Department about the lack of fishing in our lake, that there seems to be an inadequate amount of fish biting going on in the lake. And I said, after I heard of several people, some of them were friends, then I heard of a couple of 2 or 3 guides that make their living out there and saying it's really getting horrible. So I guess we might want to look at Texas Park and Wildlife, see if we look at that, because we are, I believe, known as the North Texas fishing capital.
Urban bass capital of Texas.
Urban bass capital of Texas. And I've heard that I'd hate to lose that distinction. I'd hate to lose any tournaments or anything here because it's going down. I think it's probably the drought, and it's going down all over the state, but I told them I would certainly bring that to your attentions. Please.
We can certainly check on it, Mayor. We did a year ago when the same comments came up. TPWD that does an annual survey of the lakes, and they're not based on the surveys, but we'll check with them.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I just kind of tied that in there. Thank you. See, the lakes are going back down a little bit, but they're still holding fairly steady. Gina, Brenda? Mr. Ferris, sir.
Yes, sir. Just want to update the council and the citizens that we did have, unfortunately, more positive West Nile confirmations, and we will be doing ground spraying tonight and tomorrow night in 1700 block of Edmonds and Rachel's Court. Spraying will be done after 10 p.m., and we will have a call out for all those citizens in the affected area. So everyone, use your DEET, use your off, your insect spray, and be careful out there.
Thank you, sir. And we've been trying to keep that on the website and give people out so people know we're doing that, but it is a safety factor. Mr. Backus, sir. Councilman Durham.
Mayor, follow up to Mr. Ferris. Eric, what, if people, I get the phone calls on the spraying and all that. What about the people that want to get those? What do they need to do? They get the, whatever they call it, it's not code red, I don't think anymore, but the deal where you're notified by phone from a robocall type deal?
You are notified based on where you live.
I mean, what if the people aren't getting those and they need to register for it or something?
Yes, they could actually just notify our office, city manager's office, and we can take care of that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Gilmore.
Mayor, I'd like to remind everybody that, once again, our police department and the Louisville Independent School District are teaming up for a medication disposal event at Louisville High School, September 27th. Look forward to having anybody bring their expired or unneeded prescription medications so that they don't end up in our watershed. That's all I got.
What was the date on that again?
It is going to be September 27th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Lewisville High School parking lot.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Barron?
Mayor, I'd just like to remind everyone that Western Days will be September 26th and 27th. Mr. Ferguson, do you plan to give the details of that?
Well, go ahead if you want.
Okay. The musical performances this year will start with the Friday evening performance by Robert Earl Keane at 10 p.m. The headliner on Saturday is a person who's actually performed here in the past, who has a very large following, Kevin Fowler. He takes the stage at 10 p.m. on Saturday night. Prior to his performance, though, we have Thompson Square at 8 p.m. And the Mark Allen Atwood and Brimstone Band at 9 p.m. So as always, you know, the parade is back this year. The Longhorns are back this year. It's always a great 2 days, and we just encourage everyone to come out and join us.
Thank you, and I want to say thank you to yourself and Mr. Backus and all those who've been working with you to do your best to get the park plaza across the street at least partially completed so we can utilize it during Western Week. And I'm understanding that has a possibility of happening, so we're going to keep our fingers crossed, but I do appreciate you and Mr. Backus's diligence on staying on top of that for us. Mr. Ferguson.
Yes, Mayor. Well, first of all, you may not have noticed, but I am starting to promote Western Days tonight, so I thought I would get into the spirit. I want to add a couple of things to what the city manager had to say. There's a lot of stuff that goes on at Western Days that sometimes think people aren't aware of or they overlook or just don't know exist, but there were a ton of shows in the MCL Grand last year that I was surprised didn't have more attendees, and I think if people had seen them, they would just been wowed. There was a trick roper, for example, that was just unbelievable, and generally a handful of people saw him at each performance. So check out the MCL Grand during Western Days, because there'll always be something going on all over the MCL, and there's some amazing stuff that I think you'll really enjoy if you just take the time to look into it. On that note, things going on at the MCL Grand, we have Texas Family Musicals on September 20th, one show they're presenting called There'll Be No Sad Songs, the last concert of Hank Williams, so very much in the theme of Western Days. Ballet The Dracula is going to be presented by Lake City's Ballet in 3 shows, and that's a lot of fun, and it's quite a staging. So if you haven't seen it, I have, and I recommend it highly. Concerts, we have, I'll try to get this right, I got it right last time, Anna Nizhgorodtseva, I got it. Selections from Beethoven, Prokofiev, and Shostakovich. This is the student of a very longtime friend of mine who's an international concert pianist, and I think we're going to be pretty wowed by what she has to do. That concert's coming up September 19th at 7:30 p.m. in the MCL Grand, presented by Lewisville Lake Symphony. Of course, we got Western Days, 26th and 27th. Don't want to miss that. The Visual Arts League continues to have its Friday night jam sessions. In the art museum at the, or gallery at the MCL Grand, in keeping with Western Days, we'll have an exhibit on Quanah Parker, which is pretty amazing. I've seen part of it, and it's quite a collection of historical items and factual bits of information. I think very enjoyable. That'll run from September 26th through November 8th. And then on the north walls of the MCL Grand hallway will be the Western Way, presented by Visual Arts League, again from the 26th to November 8th. And that's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Vaughn.
Yes, Mayor, I have a couple of items I'd like to address. The first being the adoption of the budget and the tax rate. It's expected that the City Council will adopt this on the 15th at our City Council meeting, and if it is adopted, it will be the 11th time in the past 20 years Lewisville has lowered its property tax rate, and would be the lowest tax rate since the 1987-88 budget year. And the other comment I would like to invite everybody to know that the 2014 Resident Satisfaction Survey is now online at the city website. It's pretty extensive, and I would suggest that you take a look at it and voice your opinion. That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Counselor? Julie? Officer, once again, it's great to see you here tonight. We appreciate what you do each and every day, sir. Thank you. As everyone said, the Western Week is the 26th and 27th of September, the end of this month. Remember now, you must have a ticket to get in. Now, the tickets are free if you get one from our sponsor, 99.5 The Wolf. They're running contests to get them away constantly. Or you can go to many of our area businesses, which will have them. Or you can still go online. You can go online to the CityOfLewisville.com and print off as many tickets as you need. I believe you can print off only 6 at a time, but you can print as many times as you need. So, but remember, you will need a ticket to enter the gate. If you do not have a ticket, they will let you in for a $20 admission fee. So just remind everyone about their tickets.
Mayor, are they going to have the winter dog races?
Well, I don't know. Have you got a dog you want to race?
Are they still having those this year?
No, sir, but if I'd known you wanted them earlier, I
They were
would have.
great.
I would have made sure we added them, but we
Just
will
think
look
about
at
it for
that for
next
the
year.
future. Yes, sir, absolutely.
I think the
Longhorns
reason,
and winter dogs.
I didn't
Right.
know.
I think the reason we didn't this year really is because there was a shortage of monkeys.
Okay.
Okay.
I would like to see that too.
Okay, 2 items on the list.
In accordance with Texas Government Code Subchapter D, Section 551.072, Property Acquisition, Section 551.074, Annual Staff Review, City Manager Donna Barron, City Secretary Julie Heinze, City Attorney Elizabeth Blaster, City Chief Municipal Court Judge Brian Homan, alternate municipal court judges, and Section 551.087, Economic Development, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations will now convene into closed session. What'd you do, go home and change so you look like me? You want me to like, you got the gray hair. Wait till you get old, you'll be all right. I didn't know, we do, man. Council, we reconvene in regular session. Is there any action to be taken?
Mayor, I'd like to move for a resolution of the City Council of the City of Lewisville, Texas, providing compensation increases for fiscal year 2014-15 for certain employees reporting directly to the City Council, and that the increase in compensation for the following persons be adopted for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2014. A 3% total compensation increase for City Manager Donna Barron, a 3% total compensation increase for City Secretary Julie Heinze, a 3% total compensation increase for City Attorney Elizabeth Plaster, a 3% total compensation increase for Chief Municipal Court Judge Brian Holman, and a 3% total compensation increase for alternate municipal court judges.
Have a motion by Councilman Gilmore,
Second?
second by Councilman Durham. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Entertain motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Motion adjourned by Councilman Ferguson, second by Councilman Gilmore. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.